I once spent almost an hour just trying to buy a very basic household item, the kind of things we use every day like pots and pans or a trash can. Not because it was a big deal, but because I overthought it, reading reviews, comparing options, worrying about choosing the wrong one, worrying it wouldn't be worth the money. A lot of women, especially those running a household, raising kids, managing a home, are stuck in this same loop every single day without even realizing it. That's why I wanted to make this video. Today isn't about what you should buy. It's about why these small household decisions feel so exhausting, and the very practical rules I use to buy everyday items without overthinking. If you want buying things for your home to take less space in your head, let's get into it. Before getting into the practical rules, I want to quickly talk about why these small household decisions feel so exhausting. Because it's not that buying things like a trash can or kitchen items is actually difficult. It's that these decisions don't stay small anymore. Things that used to take 5 minutes now take way longer. Not because we care too much, but because there are endless options, reviews, comparisons, and best lists everywhere. Suddenly, a basic item feels like something you're supposed to research properly. And since these things are tied to our homes and daily routines, there's this quiet pressure to choose the right one. What makes it worse is that there's no real stopping point. Even after you buy something, there's often this lingering thought that maybe there was a better option or a smarter choice. So your brain never fully lets it go. When this happens over and over with small purchases, it slowly drains your mental energy. That's why I stopped trying to shop better and started creating simple rules to think less. And that's what I want to share next. The first rule I started using sounds very simple, but honestly, it took me a long time to accept it. I stopped trying to buy the best household item and started buying something that was just good enough. Because here's what used to happen. I'd need something basic for the house, a pan, a storage container, a trash can. And instead of just buying one, I'd fall into this whole process, checking materials, reading reviews, watching comparison videos, acting like I was about to make a life-changing investment for a pan. And then I realized something kind of embarrassing. I was spending way more time thinking about the item than I would ever spend actually using it. So now when I'm buying everyday household stuff, I don't ask, is this the best one? I ask much simpler questions. Does it do what I need it to do? Is it easy to use? Is it going to annoy me every single time I touch it? If it works and it doesn't make my life harder, I'm done. I don't need it to be aesthetic. I don't need it to be viral on TikTok. I don't need strangers online to approve of my choice. I just need it to quietly do its job in the background of my life. And honestly, choosing good enough feels like such a relief. It means I don't turn every small purchase into a whole mental project. It means my kitchen tools don't get more thought than my actual day. Good enough isn't settling. It's deciding that my energy matters more than finding the perfect version of a very basic thing. And what surprised me later was this. Once I stopped chasing better with small purchases, it didn't just change how I bought things. It slowly changed how much stuff came into my home in the first place, and even how I spent money overall. I didn't realize it at the time, but this one shift led to a lot more changes I'll be sharing in future videos. But for now, let's come back to today's topic, because there are a few more simple rules that helped me stop overthinking everyday household purchases. The second rule I use sounds a little risky at first, but it's made a huge difference for me. I limit how many reviews I read. Because if you're anything like me, reviews are where things really start to go downhill. I don't just read 1 or 2. I scroll. I keep going. I read the 5-star ones, then the 1-star ones, then somehow I'm reading a paragraph written by someone who's clearly having a bad day, and now I'm stressed too. What I noticed is that reviews rarely make me feel more confident. They just make me more unsure. One person loves it, another person hates it. Someone says it broke in a week. Someone else says it's the best thing they've ever bought. And suddenly I'm standing there thinking, okay, so what am I supposed to do with this information? So now I stop myself early. I remind myself that I'm not trying to make a perfect decision. I'm just trying to buy a normal household item and move on with my life. Most of the time, I don't need hundreds of opinions. I just need to know one thing is there, a serious problem that would make this item unusable for me. If not, I don't keep digging. Because the truth is, the more reviews I read, the more mental energy I lose. And I don't want to spend my limited brain power arguing with strangers in the comment section about a storage bin. Limiting reviews helps me decide faster, doubt myself less, and actually close the decision instead of carrying it around in my head all day. And honestly, that alone makes shopping for household stuff feel so much lighter. After I started limiting reviews, I took it one step further. Now, if I read reviews at all, I mostly read the bad ones, but only 3 to 5. And then I stop. No scrolling forever, no just one more. At first, this felt a little counterintuitive. Like, why would I focus on the negative? But here's the thing. The good reviews don't really help me make decisions. Most of them say the same thing. Love it, works great, would buy again. Okay, cool. That tells me it works for someone somewhere. The bad reviews are more useful, but only up to a point. When I read a few negative reviews, I'm not trying to scare myself. I'm just checking for deal breakers. Things like, does it break immediately? Is it impossible to clean? Does it have some design flaw that would drive me crazy in my own house? And then I ask one simple question. Would this actually bother me in my real life? Because a lot of bad reviews are very personal. Someone is mad because the color wasn't exactly what they expected. Someone else is upset because it didn't fit their very specific cabinet. That doesn't automatically mean it's a bad product, it just means it wasn't right for them. Once I've read a few and I don't see any major red flags, I'm done. I don't need to keep scrolling until I find a horror story that convinces me to panic. Stopping at 3 to 5 bad reviews helps me feel informed without feeling overwhelmed. I get enough information to make a reasonable choice, and then I let the decision be finished. And honestly, learning to stop there has saved me way more mental energy than trying to read everything. Next up. This rule was a big one for me. I stopped making decisions based on best lists and started deciding based on my actual life. Because here's the problem with best lists. They don't know me. They don't know how big my kitchen is, how busy my days are, or how much patience I have left at the end of the day. They just tell me what's the best in general, according to someone else's standards. I used to take those lists very seriously. If something was ranked number 1, I felt like I should want it. Even if it was more expensive, more complicated, or clearly not made for the way I live. And then I'd wonder why the item felt annoying to use once it was actually in my house. So now, before I even look at reviews or rankings, I stop and think about my context. Am I buying this for a small space or a big one? Do I need something simple or something fancy? Am I realistically going to take care of this item, or do I just want it to quietly do its job? For example, something might be labeled the best because it has more features, more settings, more parts. But for me, more features often just means more things to clean, more things to break, and more things to think about. That's not better for my life. Once I started choosing based on how I actually live, not how a list says I should live, buying household items became so much easier. I stopped chasing the best and started choosing what fits. And honestly, things work a lot better when they're chosen for your life, not for a ranking. Let's move on to the next rule because this one matters a lot. A home with kids is not a Pinterest home. And honestly, it took me way too long to accept that. For a long time, I was buying things for this imaginary version of my house. The calm, clean, perfectly styled one. The one where nothing is ever out of place and everything somehow matches. And then I'd bring those items home to real life. Kids running around. Messes that appear 5 minutes after you clean. Stuff getting dropped, spilled, scratched. And suddenly the item felt wrong. It wasn't that the house was the problem. The item just wasn't made for a house that's actually being lived in. Some things looked nice but were annoying to clean. Some things felt too precious, like you had to be careful around them all the time. And instead of questioning the item, I'd quietly blame myself for not keeping things nice enough. Once I let go of the idea that my house needed to look like Pinterest, buying household items got a lot easier. I stopped asking, does this look good, and started asking, will this survive my house? Can it be cleaned quickly? Can it handle being used roughly? Can it still be okay on a random chaotic Tuesday? Because a house with kids isn't supposed to stay perfect. Things will get used, they'll get messy, they'll show wear. And that doesn't mean you chose wrong, it just means your house is being lived in. Choosing items for real life instead of photos took so much pressure off. And honestly, it made my home feel more comfortable, not less. Let's move on to another one that saved me more mental energy than I expected. I set a time limit for decisions. I didn't realize how much time I was losing on small household purchases until I started paying attention. Not just time on the clock, but mental time. I'd open my phone to look up one thing and suddenly I'd been thinking about it on and off all day. While cooking, while folding laundry, while trying to relax. The decision was technically small, but it followed me everywhere. So I started doing something very simple. Before I even start looking, I decide how much time this purchase deserves. If it's a basic household item, I give myself a short window. I look, I decide, and then I stop. No coming back later. No reopening tabs, no I'll think about it more tonight. At first, this felt uncomfortable, like I was rushing or being careless. But what I realized was that I wasn't making better decisions when I took longer, I was just second-guessing myself more. Most everyday household items don't actually improve with extra thinking. A sponge doesn't get better because you researched it for 40 minutes. A storage bin doesn't suddenly change your life because you compared 5 brands instead of 2. Setting a time limit forces me to focus on what actually matters and ignore the rest. It helps me decide based on my real needs instead of getting lost in options. And once the time is up, I let the decision be done. This rule alone helped me close decisions faster and keep them from taking up space in my head. And honestly, that feeling of being done is sometimes more valuable than picking the perfect item. At some point, I realized I needed a very clear line because without one, everything felt like it deserved more thinking. So I made a simple rule for myself: if an item is under a certain price, it only gets 15 minutes of my time. That's it. Not because the item doesn't matter at all, but because it doesn't matter that much. Before this, I'd treat a $20 or $30 household item like a major purchase. I'd open 10 tabs, read reviews, leave it in my cart, come back later, rethink it again, and somehow turn it into a whole day decision. Which makes no sense, especially when the item is something I'll probably replace again in the future. Now, I literally set a timer sometimes. 15 minutes to look, check that it fits my basic needs and decide. When the time's up, I either buy it or move on. No saving it just in case. No circling back later out of boredom. What surprised me most is that my decisions didn't get worse. They got lighter. I stopped attaching so much pressure to small purchases. If something isn't perfect, it's okay. At that price point, it's not a life decision. It's just a normal part of running a house. This rule also helped me put my energy in the right places. I can think longer about things that actually matter. Big purchases, safety, long-term use, and stop burning mental fuel on items that don't deserve it. 15 minutes sounds almost too simple, but that's the point. It gives small decisions a clear ending. And honestly, having an ending is sometimes the best part. Now, let's keep going with the next one. This rule started almost by accident. One day I realized I was feeling extra tired, and I decided I just wasn't going to compare anything that day. No side-by-side tabs. No, let me check one more option. No looking up what's better or newer or more popular. Just for one day. If I needed something for the house, I bought the first option that met my basic needs and moved on. If I didn't need anything, I didn't browse just to look. And if something popped up online that made me think, oh, that one looks better, I let the thought pass instead of chasing it. At first it felt strange, like I was skipping an important step. Comparing has become so automatic that not doing it almost felt irresponsible. But what I noticed was how quiet my head felt by the end of the day. Without comparing, decisions stopped expanding. A choice stayed small instead of turning into a whole debate. I didn't spiral into what if I chose wrong or what if there's a better version. I just chose something reasonable and let it be done. What surprised me most is that nothing bad happened. My house didn't fall apart. I didn't regret every purchase. Life went on exactly the same, except I felt lighter. Now, I don't do this every day, But whenever I feel myself getting stuck in comparison mode, I intentionally take a no comparison day. It resets my brain. It reminds me that most household decisions don't need optimization, they just need a stopping point. One day without comparing won't fix everything. But it does show you how much mental energy comparison quietly takes. And once you notice that, it's a lot easier to step out of it more often. Okay, let's move on to the rule that came from my noticing something a little uncomfortable. A lot of the time I wasn't actually shopping because I needed something. I was shopping because something showed up in front of me. I'd be scrolling, watching a video, or reading comments, and suddenly I'd see a product I'd never thought about before. And my brain would go, oh, that could be useful. Or worse, everyone seems to have this, maybe I should too. And just like that, I was considering a purchase that had nothing to do with my actual needs that day. So I started separating those two things very intentionally, need versus exposure. Now, before I buy anything for the house, I pause and ask myself one simple question. Would I still be looking for this if I hadn't just seen it online? If the answer is no, that's usually my sign to stop. Algorithms are really good at making things feel urgent and relevant. They show you items that look helpful, organized, or life-improving, especially for home stuff. But the algorithm doesn't know what I already have, what works fine, or what I realistically have the energy to deal with. Buying based on need looks a lot quieter. It usually starts with a problem in real life. Something broke, something ran out. Something is genuinely making daily life harder. When that happens, I buy to solve that problem, not the one the internet just introduced to me. This rule doesn't mean I never buy anything fun or new. It just means I don't let random exposure decide for me. I decide first, and then I look. Once I stopped letting the algorithm lead my shopping, I noticed something big: fewer tabs open, fewer impulse buys, and way less mental clutter. My house didn't lose anything, but my head gained a lot of space. So after all those rules and habits, this is the simple way I actually choose household items now. I don't think through every rule one by one anymore. It's more like a quick filter in my head. When I see something and think about buying it, I pause and picture a normal, tired day. Not a productive day, not a weekend, just a regular weekday when I'm already done. And then I ask myself a few very basic questions. Will this make my life easier, or will it quietly add more work? Will I actually use this, or will it sit there and become another thing to manage? When I'm tired, will this help me or annoy me? If the item needs special care, extra steps, or extra thinking, I usually pass. Even if it's better. Even if everyone online loves it. Because I know myself. I know what I have energy for and what I don't. I don't choose household items for the version of me who has time, patience, and motivation. I choose them for the version of me who just wants things to work without effort. That's it. For me, a good household item is quiet. It does its job. It doesn't demand attention. Once I started choosing things this way, buying stuff for my home stopped feeling heavy. It became quicker, simpler, and honestly, a lot less stressful. So, to wrap up today's video, all of these rules really come down to one thing for me: protecting my mental energy. I don't try to make perfect choices anymore. I just try to make simple ones that fit my real life, so buying things for my home doesn't take up more space in my head than it needs to. In the next video, I want to go a step further and talk about how decluttering, not in a dramatic way, but in a very practical, everyday way, completely changed how I live and how I manage money in my home. Not just less stuff, but less stress, fewer repeat purchases, and way fewer "why did I buy this" moments. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you won't want to miss it. If this video was helpful, please give it a like. It really helps the channel. Feel free to share it with someone who's always stuck overthinking small household decisions. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love for you to stick around for future videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.